Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Good morning. What is your story? Think about that a bit. We all have a story that is unique to us, but we all have two things in common. Number one, we started with a blank slate, and number two, the rest is unwritten. It's that time in between and the decisions that we make that shape the narrative of our story. I believe that no one's story is more important than another's, and that we can all learn from those who are willing to share their story with us. And that's what we're going to do here this morning. So good morning. My name is Eileen Chambers. I'm a portfolio manager with Haverford and a panelist this morning. The speaker series for women was started for many reasons, and one of those reasons is to listen and learn from each other. I hope your takeaway today is that you think a little bit longer and a little bit deeper about your story. I'm going to start by inviting Sherry Cole, who is the executive director of The Wardrobe, to tell us about an important part of her story. Sherry.
Thank you, Eileen.
I always saw it downtown at The Wardrobe, but I never really...
Hello, friends, new and old. My name is Sherry Cole. I'm the executive director of The Wardrobe. You might know us as the Working Wardrobe if you were around in the 90s, the Career Wardrobe if you were around in the 2000s, and now we are just The Wardrobe. Brand evolution is fun. But when I first spoke with Erica and Allie about being included in this particular series, I made a comment that is one that I've made throughout my 23 years as executive director of The Wardrobe, and that is that a nonprofit isn't a business model, it's a tax status. And I want that to sink in just for a minute, because often when we think about nonprofits, we think about the old adage of what a charity is. And you have to give, and they help poor people move forward in their lives, hopefully. And you see the same things happening over and over again. And as a donor, you might think, well, why do I keep giving if poverty still exists, if homelessness still exists, if unemployment still exists? And that's because we're in the business of making social change, but social change doesn't happen overnight. And if we don't change the systems that are underlying poverty and homelessness and not having access to appropriate medical care and all those things, those problems are going to continue in perpetuity. When we started as The Wardrobe, the Career Wardrobe, the Working Wardrobe, back in 1995, we were specifically giving interview suits to women to help them move out of the welfare system and into work. And just like nonprofit is not a business model, it's a tax status, I would then say we were moving women from welfare to poverty. Those were the jobs they were getting. They were home health aides making, at that time, minimum wage with no health benefits themselves. Fast forward 23 years, and a lot of our clients are still becoming home health aides, but they're making closer to a livable wage, and they're getting health benefits. And because of ACA and other things, those health benefits are now covering more for them. So we have seen in my career the needle move for women particularly, but it hasn't moved far enough. Now we have record high employment rates. People in those of you who are small businesses here know it's hard to find people for jobs, not because people aren't willing to work, but because a lot of people are working. And that's good. But people are not yet still making a livable wage. That means that they might be working 2 jobs or 3 jobs and still relying on assistance. So I give you this context of where our business is to let you know that we are making change, But change happens at an individual level before it happens at a systemic level, and I think we all know that as women in the room. So also, because a nonprofit isn't a business model, we are really more like a small business or an entrepreneurial business, right? Throughout the last 20-some years of our history, we've been very entrepreneurial. It might be my ADD, but, always looking at having diverse lines of business, right? Who are we serving? What is our population? So we started in '95 serving women who are moving from welfare to work. And then suddenly, all of those women we were helping were like, I have a son, brother, uncle, father, husband, partner. What about him? Why doesn't he get access to your educational coaching and your clothes and everything? That would help him. And we were like, I don't know. Why isn't he? Maybe we should try that. So we tried it. It worked. Now we serve all people, right? Clothing. Diverse, you think, how diverse does clothing get, right? But in the last probably 5 years, we've all become more accustomed to people who need clothing to present themselves to the world, specifically non-binary and trans folk. So if a trans man came into the wardrobe 20 years ago, we would have nothing for them probably in their size because they need a small size because they were cisgender women at one point and they're trans men and they probably tend to be smaller, right? So we needed to look at what kind of clothes were we collecting, where were we collecting from? So that's my commercial to the room, that if you have small menswear in your closet, in a closet you have access to, please clean it out and give it to us because that's our number one need right now. Is small menswear, and all types of clothing. So during the pandemic, one of the things that spurred us to be the wardrobe instead of the working wardrobe, the everyday wardrobe, the whatever wardrobe, is because we wanted to open our closet widely and say to people, whatever you need during this crisis, we have for you. We can take clothing out of your stressor. Think about that. Think about opening a closet. You all opened a closet this morning, probably, or pulled open a drawer and went, I'm going to be here. I need to make a great impression. I'm going to see people. What am I going to wear? What's that signifier that made me feel like me today? This morning, I was like, I need to wear a pop of red because I was at the Phillies game last night and I'm still on that whatever home run high, right? So, maybe that was the same for you. I know Eileen is here somewhere in the room. Ellen, sorry, I messed up your name, always wears a hat. When she walked in the room, there she is. Red hat, Phillies hat. What's that thing? Imagining opening that closet and finding nothing. Nothing that fits because you gained or lost weight during the pandemic. I don't know anybody who that happened to, right? And then what also changed and diversified was our method of service. So again, pandemic, we all shut down. What do? We went home, right? Our staff stayed employed the entire pandemic, and we started filling wardrobe boxes for people. So tell us what you need. We will have someone safely go in where all of our clothing is, personally style a box for you and send it out to you. Last year, we sent over 1,100 wardrobe boxes, mostly to folks in the suburbs. And those are people who can't get to us pre-COVID, right? Because they had issues with transportation or childcare access or what have you. So they would be calling us saying, I know I had an appointment at 1 o'clock, but I can't make it. Is that okay? And we were like, sure, we'll see you whenever you can get here. Now we can say, give us your size and your preferences, just like Stitch Fix, and we'll send a box to you, right? We now have partners who don't even have a physical location in our region. We work with Columbia Law in New York, folks in New Jersey where there is no program like us, and they can order boxes. And this leads me to the fact that we need diverse revenue. So we can't make any of this amazing stuff happen without the support of folks like Haverford Trust, who's been our key partner for several years, all of your clothing donations, board and individual donations. Many of my board members are here throughout the room. So if you'd like to get involved in donating your clothing, your time, your resources, I would love, love, love to talk to you. So help us help over 5,000 people a year throughout our region by getting involved today. Thank you so much. And I want to quickly introduce my rock star, who is also going to introduce herself. But I'm here because Veronica McKee, who's about to come up, was our board president for many, many, many years. And she is just a wonderful human being, anybody who knows her. She taught me so much personally. She taught me so much about business. So here's Veronica.
Thank you, Sherry. So it is my pleasure to kick off the panel portion of our event. A little bit of feedback, but hopefully you can hear me okay. So we are calling this At the Table. And as you may have read in the Viewpoint magazines that are at each of your seats, the wardrobe is part of my story. It was the first table that I was invited to sit and lend my voice to help accomplish something greater than myself. Now, as Chief Marketing Officer of Haverford Trust and the executive sponsor of this wonderful program, it is my pleasure to extend the invitation for all of you to join us at the table. As a member of the executive committee at Haverford Trust, I have an opportunity to sit at a table and to help shape the direction of the company. I'm there when we talk about the needs of our clients, the direction the careers of our employees are heading in, and ensuring that we are a viable organization to help fulfill the needs of our nonprofit and individual clients. So it is my pleasure to say, in the words of Shirley Chisholm, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring in a folding chair. So it's in that spirit of collaboration and inclusion, I invite our panel to please come up and join me on stage here today. So while everybody is getting comfortable, just a couple of housekeeping notes. There are Q&A cards at each of your tables. So please, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, don't hesitate to just hold that card up, and one of our volunteers will swoop in and take it and bring it up here to make sure that you're included in the conversation. Welcome, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, in the magazine that we have, we put a nice detailed bio and some really interesting conversations that we had. But just to introduce you to everybody, we'll go down the line from my left here. So we have Kim Wright, multiple franchise owner for Nothing Bundt Cakes. We have Devin Winter, Chief Operations Officer for FW Winter. We have Sandy Pfeffer, Managing Director and Greater Philadelphia Marketplace Leader for Deloitte, and my colleague Eileen Chambers, CTFA Vice President and Portfolio Manager. Welcome again, ladies. So the first thing we're going to talk about is self-promotion and social media. So for those of you in the audience who have not yet taken a picture and posted it to LinkedIn this morning, please allow me to get the conversation started on social. Everybody smile. Smile, wave, say go Phillies.
Go Phillies.
Woo! Okay. And then, ladies.
We're going to do it like this.
Yeah, you guys can stay there. Yeah. My arms are too short to do a good selfie, so y'all get to be in this. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Awesome. So our social media dream team is going to post this on our corporate LinkedIn, thank you, Allie, and on my LinkedIn, hopefully. And so when you see those posts, please repost it, comment on it, tag somebody that you met today, tag somebody that you've reconnected today, and really be part of that conversation. So as we get started, I have props. We're going to talk about the difficulty balancing humility and self-promotion. So all of you are up on stage. That's not for the faint of heart. And it couldn't have been easy when we said, hey, do you want to come up on stage? But I have to say, as I hold up this issue of Philadelphia Style magazine, and I go to the list. We have the illustrious Sandy Pfeffer on the list of notable people to know. There is a gorgeous photo and interview with Devin Winter. Mainline Today, we have Kim Wright, not only featured in here, but on the cover. Go cover, girl. So good. So, Devin, let me start with you. Because when we invited all of the panelists to attend, you said something to me, which was, yes, I'm trying to say yes more. Talk about that.
I've found that the more you say yes, the more opportunities come to you. I think that you have to say yes, put yourself out there for people to know that you're even interested. And it can start as small as introducing a speaker at a conference, or just being someone who's a greeting at the door in terms of an event. I find the more you say yes, the more it multiplies, and then multiplies into something larger. And so that's really been my experience.
Awesome. And we all have that balancing act of trying to be humble, but somehow proud out loud. So Sandy, you had mentioned some of your challenges around just that.
Yeah, I mean, at a company like ours, we have a lot of material we can put out there to the world that's, in some ways very packaged, usually postable, but that doesn't represent, it's not personal, right? And I think in any of our businesses, how we succeed is by building relationships. So what I like to do on my social media is put things when I'm doing stuff with our team, when I'm doing stuff with the community, when I'm doing something like this that I'm really proud of. So people know who I am, and I can use that to put out there. And all of my marketing people, sorry, you're probably like, but it's all about, it's all about it's all about sharing who I am. And then once you get to know me, hopefully you get to know, our broader team and our company.
That's awesome. Eileen, you talked a little bit about confidence and how it's that it's not just you're being confident for yourself, but also because that is what portrays your expertise.
Sure, and I think that that's what is expected of us, is that people expect you to know your stuff and to be confident about it, and to really build relationships, you have to exude that. And sometimes we have self-doubt. Sometimes we're not having the most confident day, but we have to bring our best to the table every single time and to show that confidence. And knowledge, for me, has always been my builder of confidence. The more prepared I am, the more information that I have accessible to myself, the more confident I can be. And it helps me build relationships in a much better, more confident way.
Did you do anything special to get ready for today?
Well, I prepared an awful lot.
You rocked the opening. I thought your opening was fantastic.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Short and sweet.
So Kim, you and I are social media friends, which is awesome. So a lot of the content for today really started a year ago. And I had the pleasure of seeing you on a panel of women in franchising, which is a very interesting business model for ownership. You said something at the time which was about social media and that balancing act between your real life and what you're putting out on social media. Do you remember that conversation?
If I were to guess, I would say that I really believe that social media is a curated life. And I post on it every day. So just a fair warning in case you decide to befriend me after this event. I post every day. I post a lot about my business, but a lot about my family too. But it really is a curated life, and it's it's our highlight reel. So I think that it's really important, and it does a lot of good things because, to your point, it really lets people know about me. So then if they connect with me because I'm a hockey mom or a boy mom or whatever it is about me that they identify with, then maybe we're going to talk business later and that will come. But I think the most important thing that we know is that I never want to place myself where people feel like they can't be my friend because my life is too perfect or too beautiful, because that's not the truth. So it's just always important to remember that what we're seeing is great, because we want people to identify with us. We want to cheer other people on. We want to inspire people to reach for their dreams as well. And if they identify with us, then maybe we can inspire that, that activity. But it is a very, it's just the highlights, and it's just our best moments.
It's really well said. Does anybody feel the same, different? How do you feel?
I definitely feel similar in this same sense of with social media. You know, sometimes it seems like someone can be so much further ahead than you, but the reality is like we're all on our own timelines, our own pace, and we don't really know what's going on in the background. So again, if it's just a highlight reel, of course everything's going to look perfect and look like, you know, it's easy. But we all know that success is not easy. It's not linear. It's an up and down process, and that happens. And that's the one thing that connects us all. It's the same for everyone. No one is on this straight path to success. We're all going up and down. We're all going up and down our own way.
I think it's the whole theme, like, what's your story, right? And I think, Devin, what you said just resonated, is that, you know, I worked at a company where it's like, oh, you start here and you do this and you do this. But what you realize over time is there's so many different things to do. And if you just judge yourself based on what somebody else is doing, you might feel good or not good about yourself. But you drive your own career. You drive your own life. And you should take ownership of that and strive to be your best self, but also, you know, give yourself grace and latitude, because you're doing it in your own way.
We all have to remind ourselves of this constantly, because it is always in our face. And there's so many channels now to get that information, and the Kardashian life. And it's just, you know, we're all building our story at the same time and at our own pace. And we have to be graceful to one another. And I think that's what a room like this hopefully allows for, is that we're all here for the same reason, to support one another, to understand each other, to build relationships. And it might look great on social media, because it is great. But we're all going to move on from right now and go to our day, and our day may end up being a tough one, you know. But it's important that we have people that have our back, and that we know that we're all in this together.
So how do you reconnect with those in real life who have your back?
Oh, the real way.
Yes.
You know, it's the in-person. I love Zoom now because you can connect with more people, but it's not exactly the same. So just those in-person contacts, doing things like this, getting out of your comfort zone, getting up really early for a breakfast, in Cloud Wind. Yeah, you do the things to make sure that you make the time for those types of connections.
Yeah. I think the one thing, which is going to sound funny because it's not in person, but text message seems to be one of the most personal things you can do. And one of the things I like to do is, if I have a random thought about somebody I haven't talked to in a couple of years, I just send them a text thinking about you, like, hope you're well, whatever I was thinking about. And I think that's a really nice way to stay connected in a short way that doesn't take a lot of time. There was one partner of mine that I thought did something brilliant, and it was amazing. She was able to execute it. She had every Thursday, she would send a note to 3 people that touched her, impact her, and it didn't have to be, a lot of times it was staff or somebody, but every Thursday she sent 3 quick notes to the folks that did it, and she did it for a whole year. And she said it was like life-changing what she did. So it's just those short, quick notes that I think that can really change somebody else's life. Like, you might just be doing because you thought of them, but they may take it differently because they know you thought about them.
I think that's fantastic.
So I think it can be very short.
It's a great takeaway from today.
Exactly.
Really,
in the crazy lives that we live,
yeah.
right? Like just to do that, I think can make a real difference.
I love that.
That's awesome. So Sandy, you told us a story when we met earlier when the warm weather was just starting to turn warm, as opposed to now that the leaves are starting to fall. And it really struck me as I thought about aspiration, visualization, and feedback. So early in your career, you had gotten some feedback from somebody that wasn't necessarily uplifting, in my opinion. Do you remember that story? Can you tell us a little bit about your takeaways?
I'm trying to think. I hope it's the same story, but it's a good one.
I'm sure it's a good one either way.
Well, I had I was a senior manager, and I had a partner I was working for, and he was like, "You're trying to be everybody's friend. Like, I don't need you to be everybody's friend. I just need you to like get the job done," or whatever it was, right? And so then I started, I don't want to say I was being mean to all my staff, but I was like, you need to get that done, right? And I wasn't asking you how your weekend was, because I didn't care, because I was trying to not be your friend. And I felt very icky. Felt very icky for a while. And then I was like, why am I doing this? But you know, this was somebody who was, you know, evaluating me, and somebody I was hoping to make sure would help me continue to advance in my career. I just, at the end of the day, and I've told this story a couple times, it was crappy. Like, it was totally crappy that this person told me that, right? And I needed to be my authentic self.
Yes.
And that's really what I learned from that experience. And so I think we all get feedback all the time, and do that, or if we were talking about golf and your golf game, keep your head down, or whatever the men tell us when we golf, which is never good advice. But we, you know, you have to internalize it, any of that feedback, but you have to like take it for what it is and then actualize it in your own authentic way.
I got similar feedback in my career. And yeah, the term icky doesn't even go far enough to explain it. I was not myself. I didn't bring myself to that job.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting. And it was so much of my energy. I wasn't portraying my values. I don't know, I was portraying somebody else's values.
Right.
I didn't have the roadmap for what I was trying to accomplish, and it just felt wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the idea of bringing your whole self to whatever it is you do. Of
course.
Yes. So, Devin, can you talk a little bit about values and the next generation, and how you work to instill your company's values in your team?
Sure. I think obviously as a leader, it starts with you, and it starts with your own mindset and what, you know, creates the confidence for you to step into that room and take up space and, you know, hold your own, which is so important. And never underestimate the value of honestly just being there. Even if you're not speaking, you're not leading the conversation, and you're just listening, it's so important to show up first and foremost. I think with me, I'm in a very male-dominated industry in manufacturing and metals, and for me it's been integrity, communication, and consistency. I've consistently showed up, I've consistently communicated, and I've identified the values that make me hold my integrity in a room working with a very geopolitically diverse group of people, and especially as a young woman. And so what I really bring to my team is that our ethics are the most important as our company, the quality that we bring to our customers. And it really starts with the communication and the consistency, because when you're a consistent supplier to large welding companies, automotive, oil and gas, aerospace, that starts to build trust. And you can only have trust when you have integrity as well.
Kim, you have an amazing workforce. Same question for you. Talk about values and how you inspire your workforce.
So, little known fact, aside from Nothing Bundt Cakes, before I did that, my husband and I still own a small business together. It's in the construction industry. So I always say I went from buildings to bunts. And when I was in that industry, much like I'm sure Devin experiences, it was male dominated. And I would sit at the table and I would feel like I had to edit myself, and I had to worry about, I would never have worn this outfit, by the way. Maybe not wear a pink lipstick, right? It was very deliberate every day, and like you said, it was exhausting. Every email I wrote, I had to make sure I was trying to be succinct, right? Like you, I was not being nice, and it was very tiring. And so I feel so excited now to be at Nothing Bundt Cakes, where every day I get to be my authentic self, and I get to wear whatever I want and be joyful every day. I write 1,000,000 exclamation points in all of my emails and don't worry about it. And when I hire people on my team, because our brand is about joy, we have so many guests that come in and they're having a bad day. And I tell all my young female employees, you were hired because you sparkle and you shine. And that's all I ask of you. And I just tell them every day when we have those tough guests, don't let anybody dull your sparkle. Be your authentic self every day, show up every day, and you just have to continue to do that. And my hope for my team members, because a lot of them are young, they're high schoolers, they're young college students, all I want for them is for them to hear that from me so that when they go out into the world and the world is pushing back on them, that they're hearing my voice and that they're making sure that they're continuing to sparkle so that maybe one day they're in a room like this or they're on a stage like this.
Love that. So apparently we're all in industries that are male dominated, but making our way. Of course we are. Not but we're making our way. Of course we're making our way. So Sandy, can you talk a little bit about recognizing opportunity and when you see that opportunity, making it your own?
Yeah, I started out to say earlier that you drive your own career. And if you identify opportunities or you want something, put it on a sticky, put it on a goal form, put it somewhere, and then you may not get there directly, you may not get there, but in the sort of visualization of putting something out there will allow you to come up with a collection of other experiences that will either support you getting there and you getting there, or something else beautiful and wonderful may come out of it. And I think, maybe the stereotypical women less risk-taking, and I don't think we have to be wild risk-takers, but I think if we push ourselves, like sitting on a panel, right, or coming up with something we'd like to do, that will just give us that visualization that will help us, collect those experiences to achieve something wildly awesome.
Eileen, you have either formally or informally been a mentor to so many people at Haverford Trust throughout your career. Can you talk a little bit about recognizing opportunity and making it your own and how you share that wisdom or your techniques with the next generation?
Sure. Yeah, I've been both the beneficiary of that and hopefully I'm giving that to others as well. I think that it's really important to have someone that has your back throughout your career, and finding that someone is not always natural. It's asking, or there's just a natural. Sometimes there's just a natural affinity to one another. But having someone that you know that has your back all the time, I think is the number one key. And I had that through Haverford for many, many years. I've been at Haverford for a very long time, over 30 years, and worked in many, many departments. But along the way, there have been really key people that have supported me. And it's been just like being a parent, it's been my goal to give to others what I've been given. I don't think my career is fulfilled if I'm not helping other people learn and grow and be supportive. So in my small team, I try to do that all the time, and I have along the way. But along my career, I've had many more people that report up supposedly to me, right? So it's hiring good people and then being there for them. And not everyone's going to make good decisions. I have not always made good decisions, but having someone there that has your back and cares about you and talks you through it and gives you opportunity, and someone that really cares about you is going to see where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and either play to those strengths or help you with those weaknesses. And I've really so many success stories throughout my career at Haverford. of other people that I'm just so proud of. And many of them are still here today. Some have moved on, but many of them are in this room today, and I'm so proud to be a part of that.
I think one thing, listening to all of our stories and everybody in this room, that we don't appreciate us just showing up and being ourselves in our businesses, in whatever, our lives, our families. Like, I was talking to an executive this summer, and she said, and I had the same experience where I had a young person come up to me, and she's like, oh, that was so great when you were at this or that. And I wasn't even on a panel. Like, this was just like an interaction in the office or something. But I didn't appreciate that I had such an impact on her just by being there and just, I don't know, talking to the room or talking to people. So I think the interactions we have, with your high school and your college kids, and maybe there's somebody in your organization that's like so excited just to see somebody that looks like like you, right? And the portfolio of people that are, those that are coming up under you. I think all of us in this room, by showing up, we don't know the lives we're impacting. And so that was just a realization when I had this conversation with this other executive, and we both shared the same experience, that we just don't, because people don't always tell us, but it's out there. And so we are really touching lives just by showing up.
And I think that's true in business, but it's also really true in a personal life too. A lot of times you only get one chance to do the right thing, to show up at some of those things that are uncomfortable, whether it's a funeral or an engagement party with people you don't know, or you have one chance to do the right thing, and showing up is incredibly meaningful in both business but also in your personal life, because at the end of the day, one of you said it, and it's so true, I think it was you, that we're all just building relationships, and that's where a good life, a good career, all of those things are built on building relationships and caring and showing up.
And to circle back to what Sandy said about giving yourself grace, and if you're your harshest critic all the time, but then you're also getting criticized from the outside, you really have to build up yourself internally and be your own internal cheerleader, because there's going to be moments where there isn't someone able to cheer you on, and you have to sit there and stand up there and say, no, I am an expert in my field, or I do deserve to be here. Or I am the right woman for the job, and sometimes it honestly has to be you yourself.
Yep, and you have to be, I think it comes back to being prepared too. You can't really feel that way if you don't know it, so you have to be prepared.
So we're going to continue this conversation, but again, if there's questions, please jot them down, hold your cards up. We have plenty to, thank you. We have plenty to keep going. Devin, you on that subject of recognizing opportunity and showing up and being that example, you told us about when you started going to industry conferences, and one man came up to you and said, I would not let my daughter come into this industry.
Yes.
And can you finish that story?
Sure, yeah. So I was at a conference abroad, and I work in family business. I manage my father's company for him. And we were standing there in the lobby, and an older gentleman came up to us and kind of started chastising my father. How can you have your daughter working at this male-dominated industry? This is terrible. You're doing her a disservice. That was in 2018. So in this past spring, I was in another conference in Singapore, and the same man came up to me, and he said, Devin, I've been seeing you come to these conferences. You've made quite a reputation for yourself. You showed up. I want you to meet my daughter. She has decided to change careers, and she wants to join my company, and I'd like us to go out to dinner while you're here. So we went out to dinner in the spring in Singapore. Then we went out to dinner again in Germany. And then I went out to dinner again in Germany when I was there a couple weeks ago, and we are starting to do business together. So I think that the moral of the story is maybe you don't know that people see you, but they do. And sometimes you're going to have an outside force try and, knock you down a few notches or make you question while you're there. But stay the course. If it feels good to you and it's what you want, stay the course, because honestly, what goes around comes around. And I think when you are prepared and you're showing up and you're doing the right thing, good things, they flow, they come, and you don't have to force it, and people are seeing you and they'll recognize you, and maybe they won't verbally recognize you, but they see you, maybe they know themselves, And you don't always need that validation. Give that validation back to yourself.
And so, Devin, just keeping with you for a moment, so you've recognized the opportunity at FW Winter. It wasn't what you set out to be when you grew up.
No, it definitely wasn't. I said I moved to New York after college, was going to be a journalist, and wasn't really getting the gigs that I wanted. But, you know, I talked to my father about moving out to a smaller middle market state, and he said, come back to Philly, why don't you get a graduate's degree? You can work for me during the day and you go to school at night. So that's kind of the process that we started. And I was just an assistant booking trucks for the company, but then started to see kind of some opportunities. My first negotiation was a copier contract. And, you know, eventually.
Those are not easy contracts to negotiate. There's a lot of nuance.
Yeah. And just started, you know, kind of leaving my mark here and there, just trying to help out, and eventually went to the state of New Jersey, applied for some grants to get ISO certified, which is a quality management certification, and then lean manufacturing. And from there, you know, just kind of built my way and started learning, and consistently showed up. And, you know, it's now almost 10 years later, and it's been a really wild and beautiful ride, and I've learned so much about myself. And so I think it was an opportunity. It's so hard to build your own business. So I was like, you know what, here's one. It's certainly not perfect, but we'll try and make something, leave my own mark on it.
I love that story, Devin, and it inspires me that maybe one of my sons will want to come into the family business too.
Well, that's such a great segue, Kim. So at what point in running it's not construction, it's construction adjacent. What is it actually?
It's building commissioning.
Building commissioning. So at what point in your building commissioning company life cycle did you go, you know what, I think I'm going to go start a whole bunch of other businesses?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it was not my choice. We had 3 kids at the time, we have 4 now, and my husband and I felt like we were doing a great job, and we had that that elusive work-life balance, where if our business needed 100% attention, one of us could do it, and then our children, if they needed attention, the other one could turn their head to that, and everything that was important to us was 100% taken care of by one of us. But one day my husband said, you know, we should diversify our income. You never know what's going to happen. And I thought, what could happen? Well, 2020 happened, so I think that really taught us something. But, you know, it was really my husband was the inspiration behind that. And I was very slow to want to make that change. I'm so happy that he continued to pursue something. And really, there was a tipping point when he came home. And he said, Kim, I found it. I know what we're going to do. And I said, great, what is it? He said, it's called Batteries Plus. And I said, I don't think I could do that every day. I don't think that doesn't sound sexy. And so I started getting involved in the conversation, and I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that we worked it out together. But that's how we ended up here.
So if you don't already know, on your way out, Kim has provided everybody with nothing but cake to take home. Way more appreciative for that than a battery.
Of course. Absolutely. See, I'm going to tell my husband that when I go home. Yes. But it wasn't my choice. I felt like I was going to disrupt our balance. And, you know, we're always so fearful of that. I really, for a long time, believed that if we had this work-life balance that all of us are trying to achieve, it would mean that we would be successful in business and in life, financially, that our children would be smart, they would go to good schools, they would, you know, have careers of their dreams, that we would have a good marriage, that I would have great friendships. And I was so fearful of disrupting that balance, because then I felt like in my own mind, and again, this is what I portrayed to myself, that I put society's norms on myself, and I thought if we disrupted that balance, it would mean we would begin to fail in one department or another, and then in my mind, I felt like everything would slowly start to unravel. But I'm so glad that we decided to move forward with something. Again, we did our research, we felt prepared about our choices, and now we are, you know, continuing to move forward with them.
Yeah, taking that leap must have been challenging.
It was. I had a little one, and you know, he was, I think, less than 1 at the time that we decided to change over. And It is. It was very challenging. It still is every day, but the beauty of the choice is that, again, I've now become, I get to be my authentic self every day. I get to do something that allows me to sparkle and shine and wear glitter and pink and whatever it is that I want, because we're all about celebration in this brand that I'm in. So I'm so grateful that we decided to look around and do our homework and, you know, make a choice that we felt strongly about.
And we made such a different decision with our family years ago. My husband became a stay-at-home dad when we had 2 children, and 21 years ago, that was very unusual. And so we faced a lot of strange questions and people questioning, you know, what our choice was. And we, you know, it wasn't easy all the time, but we thought it was the right decision for us. And I think that's really important for us to remember, is to respect no one's decision. You can't really judge what other people do. You know, people are going to do what's best for them and for their life, and if they have a family, for their family. And we have to be kind about that and supportive. But I still have absolutely no regrets. I think we did the right thing for us. And he was the cookie dad for Girl Scouts, and, you know, soccer coach for the whole girl. I have 2 girls, so it was, you know, all girl time. So even our dog was a girl. So God bless him.
So we have really good questions coming in here, but I think I'm going to stick with the families in business kind of conversation. Kim and Devin both work with family. And then, so Sandy, Eileen, Kim, very supportive partners in your life. And Kim, you said something at lunch about it's not easy being a woman in business because your business is like one of your kids. So, airball, I'm just gonna throw it up. So talk about families in business together, the good, the bad, the supportive, the tears.
I think that my biggest challenge that I was unprepared for when I started Nothing Bundt Cakes was that because I had to be all in, especially in year 1 and 2, and then even into year 5, really to make sure that you know, obtain that success and that you're getting your you know, kind of bearings on everything. I think that my nuclear family, my immediate family, my sons and my husband, they knew, and they were in it with me, and they were accepting of everything that I missed. And, you know, when I wasn't home because somebody was sick, and while that was hard for me because the mom guilt is, you know, that's a real struggle. As a immediate family, we were good, and we still are. I think my biggest shock was in that year 1 and 2 when I had to say no to either extended family or to friends. I lost friendships, and I got a lot of pushback from my family because they didn't understand that their misunderstanding was that because I was the boss, it meant I didn't have to be there. And that to me was probably the biggest challenge when it comes to family and relationships as a business owner, because if you're not a business owner or you don't know somebody that has been and you haven't had that, you know, influence in your life, it is hard to understand. And I could see how they misunderstood that, and they could not understand where I was at and exactly what I was struggling with, and they couldn't accept it, and that was shocking for me. It was very hard.
Yeah, we were very fortunate not to lose any. We have really wonderful friends and families, so we're very lucky. But I remember when we first told my husband's parents that that's what we were going to do, that he was going to stay home, his dad said, "You can't do that. That's not what's done. That's not what people do. That's not okay." And you know, he came around, he obviously, but that's because, especially from that generation, it was, that's not what people do, and they just couldn't understand the decisions that we made, and it took a while.
I think all of us have our own unique flavor on it, right? And
Sure.
I think what you had said is that people are going to make decisions for themselves, and not everybody's decision looks the same, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
So my husband is a surgeon, and I was established in my career when he was finally out of medical school and residency, and he starts working, and he's actually got his real job now. And I'm like, well, I don't understand why you can't just, like, we're going to go to this event or we're going to do whatever. But he was still at the formative stages of his career and being like, the new surgeon on staff and all that stuff. And he was, felt he needed to go extra, what we all do. Not that we don't go over above in all stages of our career, but you want to make that good first impression. And it was harder for me because I was more mid-career and I was like, oh, I can navigate. Do I need to go to that event or can I go to that event for a little bit? So that was like an internal challenge I think we had for a little bit. But I also appreciate, it gets called in the middle of the night. You've got to go in. Like it's beyond, it's above us. So I think just everybody wrestles with whatever they have to navigate through. And we don't have any kids, but now we have a 4-year-old golden doodle, and he is the center of our life. But there's a lot of logistics. Like to date, we're going to go to a Phillies game, and then I have a 7:30 a.m. meeting, then I've got to be in the city, and we're going to go to the shore. So how's the dog going to get to the shore? Like everybody's got, I don't have kids, but everybody's got the like, how do we balance this all, or juggle it all?
We're all juggling something.
Exactly. So I think that's the grace we need to give each other, and the sort of appreciation that everybody's doing whatever their thing is to make it work.
I feel you on the dog thing. My mother-in-law is here. She can vouch for the fact that the dogs are involved in every decision that we make.
Yes, of course.
So let's talk a little bit about mentorship, and this is awesome. This is something we talked about in person, plus both questions we got so far is about that. So in what ways do you, and Sandy, I want to start with you. So let's talk advice.
Okay.
I read an article, I think it was in last week's Wall Street Journal, about how accounting is not a career that people are going into. And Eileen and I have had this conversation about women in finance, not necessarily something that attracts a big audience. So Sandy, what's the advice you would give to teenage girls to get them into these types of careers, and maybe more importantly, to be a leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we could do the whole accounting thing, because that's a whole nother thread of the career. It's there's a lot of issues with getting women and men into the accounting field. That's got a lot of history, and that would not be, that would be a little bit, maybe too much for some. Maybe I'll just answer the leadership part of the question,
Great.
if that's okay.
Please.
I mean, I was fortunate to go to an all-girls academy for high school, and I think what that did for me was allow me the freedom to be me, right? There was, everybody wore a uniform. You had your unique take on it, whether you had your Docksiders or your loafers, and whether you wore, the blazer or the sweater. And everybody showed up in their authentic selves, but you didn't have some of those external pressures to, that you might in just a mixed environment. And environments are wonderful for whatever kid works for them. But for me, that was something that allowed me to start my leadership journey, because I was able to participate or show up and take leadership. So what I'd say to younger folks is just take the opportunities that are given to you, and also push yourself. I think as women sometimes we're very comfortable just doing what's sort of expected or what's next. But if we don't push ourselves, you're not going to do anything great by anybody else trying to push you, right? You have to want it. But I'd also say take some of those opportunities, and you're going to fail. You're going to fail, and that's okay, because you learn by failure. Some of the best things you learn from are when things didn't go well, and you're like, wow, I'm never going to do that again. But I'd say, I think there's a lot of pressure on young kids these days, right? And I just think giving them some space to be themselves and allow themselves to not be perfect. You can be great. You don't have to be perfect. And I think to be a leader is not about being perfect, right? It's not about doing something 100% great. It's the totality of the qualities of being a leader. And I think we have to encourage our young people to lean into the totalities of all the qualities.
Stuff to add?
You have young people that you work with all the time.
I do. I think that, one of the pieces of advice that I like to give them is to be brave every day. And that might mean, my biggest challenge for myself when I go to a networking event is to make sure that I am brave, and that when I see somebody or I hear somebody speak and I think, I really would like to talk to them. Maybe it's just to meet them, but probably it's because I want to maybe introduce Nothing Bundt Cakes and see if we can collaborate. But I tell myself internally to be brave, to walk up to them and just start the conversation, because things come from that. But I think that's the hardest piece, is to remind ourselves to be brave. And then I always tell myself, if you get to the car and you get home and it's harder to live with regret of not doing something than live with the fear, or even, looking back on, going on TV or speaking on a stage and stumbling over your words or wishing that you had said it differently. I would rather live with that than the regret of not doing something.
I think there's also something, we talk about being yourselves, being your authentic self, and I think those things are really important. But I also think that for younger people, they do need a little bit more structure and accountability. And I think that it's up to us to guide people, especially teenagers, that there's so much out there on social media, and just do whatever you want. You have to have structure. But I mean by structure, I think you need to be respectful. And I think that's probably what you're teaching them every day, is shine, but do that in a very respectful way of the customers, because they are having a bad day. And I think that respect that we have to continue to make sure it's in our work environment and in our life. So we don't want to lose sight of that. It's very important.
I think too, even in my own home, I call it from, we've all developed skills as managers and as leaders, right? We look at personality testing. What does that mean about me? Am I communicating properly? Are they receiving the proper communication? So in my own home, as my children are I have 4 of them, they're between 7 and 14. I'm taking those manager skills and I'm creating what I call momager skills. And I'm taking those same ideas of communication. Am I giving them the information in the way that they need to receive it? Am I putting it down on paper? Are we writing lists? Are they visual? Are they auditory learners? All these different things. And I'm translating them into our home life. But I'm also guiding them with very small, in some small ways. It could be communication with a teacher or with a coach about missing something or being on vacation. And so we are definitely kind of honing those skills in these small instances. And the hope is that they're developing those skills as preteens and as teenagers, so that as they go into college and other things, they at least have a very small basis. So I think that's another great place that we can start to be mentors, is start in our own homes with our own families, because those skills, my hope is that it really benefits them as they start to communicate with people when they leave my home.
Beautiful. Devin, so you work very, very broadly with women in manufacturing.
Yes.
And so can you talk a little bit about recruiting young people, women in particular, into manufacturing, and then how do you mentor them through the ranks?
Yes, so I'm on the board of Women in Manufacturing. We have about 20,000 members representing 3,000 manufacturing companies here in the US, and I'm also on the committee for the International Expansion Program. So what we have in our organization is we have various chapters, and they're done by state, so state chapters, but we often have speaker series similar to this, virtual series. We have Mom in the Workplace series. And so what we are really trying to do is not just about women entering the manufacturing field, but just about young people and educating them on what is out there. We feel that the career trajectory in manufacturing is actually quite quicker than in a traditionally corporate job right now, especially due to the age demographic that is in manufacturing right now. It's nearing a lot of retirement, so there's going to be a lot of open positions. And so our biggest focus is connecting women from the shop floor, meaning like an operator, all the way up to the C-suite, and showing them what that path looks like, and that the path is also open to them, and that there are positions open to them. And normalizing seeing a woman like me, or someone like them at a conference where maybe you wouldn't normally go to a summit, especially if you're an operator, but pulling in these large manufacturing companies, but also these small mom and pop shops, creating education programs for them as well on how to, diversify their workforce, because we all know it's hard to find people these days as well, and it's important that we're educating one another on what's out there. I think when I was in high school going into college, I mean, I thought about maybe, okay, I'll be a lawyer, there's a doctor, but I'm not really into the medical. You don't really know what's out there. So you have to, as organizations, we have to market to young people on what opportunities we have for them.
Yeah, I love that Billie Jean King quote, you have to see it to be it. That's brilliant. So we have just a few minutes left. Believe it or not, that time seems like it flew. So last question, I want to talk, we're an investment management company, so I'm going to close with financial planning. So can you think about the role of financial planning in your success, and whether that means in your business or in your home life? What role does financial planning play for you? You can go.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that it's quite obvious. I think financial planning is freedom. I think that Plan Anywhere, gives you peace of mind. So I think it's so important, especially as women who, I also went to an all-girls school. We were talking about this earlier, Sandy and I. We didn't necessarily have a large endowment fund because women would go and get married and they wouldn't necessarily have careers to give back. And eventually we, put the right structure in place to create a larger endowment fund. But it's similar to women. I think we don't always have this conversation about finances out in the open because it's just not always naturally brought up. So I think that, having a financial plan, at least starting the habit of learning about it is so important, especially young. But it doesn't really matter, I don't think, on your age. I mean, you can start at any time and really get well versed, and it's important to have that cushion of independence,
For me, the financial piece as a small business owner was the scariest. It was where I had the least amount of understanding. But I really think that my biggest challenge, again, is looking in the mirror. It was thinking, okay, I want to do nothing but cakes. I believe that it's a good business model. I see myself doing it and succeeding in it, and I can bet on myself, and I know that I'm going to do the work. But who's going to give me the money? I mean, I'm just Kim Wright. And at the time I didn't, now I have 5, so it's a different story. But at the time I had 0. So I had no expertise in this field. So I looked in the mirror and thought, how am I going to get money? Who's going to give that to me? And so I think that's why it was the scariest part for me. And it's interesting because 5 years down the road and 5 bakeries later, I still look in the mirror and, spoiler alert, I'm doing 6 more. But when I went I thought to myself, when the brand said to me, we would like you to do this, I still looked in the mirror and thought, who's going to give me that money? Like, I'm just Kim Wright. Who's going to do that? And I went to lenders and they said, well, you're Kim Wright and you have all of this to show. But I couldn't see that. And I think that's the important piece, is I have to realize in the 5 years and in the teams, CPAs and other trusted people that I've started to lean on, because I still have I'm never going to be an expert in that. It's just not my interest, right? I do it because I need to, and I need to be familiar with my numbers, and I need to make sure I'm running the business properly. But I don't get excited about it in terms of breaking it all down. So I have a great team. I think that's another critical piece, is if that's not your forte, make sure you have somebody that you can trust, that you feel like you can ask what I call dumb questions to, and really continue to be my authentic self in those moments and say, hey, I don't understand what this means on my P&L, or can we review this again? And oh, I'm sorry, it's our monthly call. Can we do it again? Because I still am confused about it. I think that's really important. But for me, the biggest challenge is still looking in the mirror and thinking, not seeing how far that I've come or even how much further I can go.
Yeah, you're despite the fact that I am an accountant by nature, like, you're asked questions, like when I get into like financial planning, people like say things, I'm like, I don't understand those words you're saying, can you say them again? So, I think whatever background we come from, right? I mean, it really is digging into the details. I mean, I'd say I had been fortunate that I had a good job out of college, so I wasn't doing I did here, sign up for your 401k, that's great. But I'd say more like mid-career, and as I started thinking about like retirement's not too far out, how do you make sure you're comfortable and want to enjoy that time, right? maybe they're our best years, right? And so you want to be able to have the opportunity and support that. So I've gotten much more into it lately than I had been in early career, partially out of not having to, because I was fortunate, but I've gotten more into the details. So I think wherever you are, I think, Devin, you just said it, wherever you are in your journey, there's no right time. It's not like you've missed the boat, right? You can get involved in that financial plan at any point in your career.
I know this is all music
I've
to
been-
your ears.
I've been really holding back.
And Eileen could
That was
talk about
painful.
this for an
That was
entire
painful, yes.
hour.
You get 3 minutes,
I
girlfriend.
absolutely love financial planning. I think it is absolutely essential for everyone, man, woman, and child. I think it is, incredibly important for us to have a foundation, to know what you have, to know what you need, to know that you can get through the next emergency, to know that you can retire. If you don't have a financial plan, I think you probably don't have the confidence that you should have. And just in general, because it can build your confidence to know that, number one, you're not there, but you know what you need to do to get there, or you're on your way there, or you're there. You have to have a financial plan. And I've been doing this with my daughter who graduated from college in June. We sit down every Sunday and we talk about her financial plan. She's on Quicken. This is so important. And now her friends are coming and asking me questions, and but it's so important for I say man, woman, and child. So I know this is a wonderful room of women, but it's really just so incredibly important. And you do have to have someone you trust. And you don't need to be an expert if you have that person you trust. And of course, it's a very big offering now at Haverford, and we have an incredible team that I'm so proud of, that I love being a part of. And I highly encourage you, if you're not doing something, get started. You can follow someone on Instagram that's a great, that can teach you about financial planning, just very basics. But reach out and talk to other people, because it will give you a sense of confidence and well-being that you might not know you're missing. And that's it.
That's our time.
Well, thank you very much for joining us at the table today. Thank you, Veronica, and our guests. If you met someone new, learned something new, or thought about something a little differently today, I think we've achieved our goal. This is our final speaker series event for the 2023 season, but we are gearing up for 2024 and expect to save the date soon. There is a QR code on page 2 of the Viewpoint magazine. If you care to leave your advice, or we are building the 2024 season, and your remarks, your influence is so important to us building good content. So thank you very much for being here. And thank you, Kim, for the cakes to go. Don't forget to get one on your way out. Breakfast of Champions.
And if you're intimidated by the QR code, we will be sending a survey tomorrow.
We're not intimidated, ladies, are we?
Not at all.
No.
Thank you. Have a lovely morning.
you.
Thanks for starting your day with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are so wonderful.